Hello! Welcome to my July reading wrap up. We're halfway through the reading year. It's more than halfway through the reading year, and I have surpassed my reading goal of 60 books. So my new goal is to read 100 by the end of December, which I think I can achieve. Fingers crossed. Anyway, on to July, what I read in July. I started the month by finishing a book I started in June. That was The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This book has had so many reviews. Everyone on BookTube has read it. Everyone has loved it. And I ended up giving it a 3 to 5. I didn't think it lived up to the hype. I thought it was so long. I thought it was confusing. Like, the whole premise, how the characters were switched from time to time, the introduction of new characters. I just was confused. It was hard for me to follow. I thought it dragged on. I mean, I love the murder mystery aspect of it. I think it's really cool. I liked how the story ended, and we learned like the magic behind it, like why this character kept reliving the same day. I thought that was really cool, really great, very unique, but just, God, it went on. This story is about a person who must solve the mystery of the death of Evelyn Hardcastle after 8 days. So this person lives in a new character's body each day, and each person gives him like clues on like who killed Evelyn. So it's just about him figuring it out. So yeah, 3 to 5 for that one. The next book I read was another one I had started back in April. This is The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. I also gave this a 3 to 5. I liked it. It was nice. It's a very eccentric story, very different story. It's a story about love and grieving and adventure. We follow the main character. He's a bookshop owner in Paris. He finds a letter from like the love of his life that's dated 20 years ago. He finds a letter, reads it, and goes on an adventure to the south of France. And he meets characters along the way. They're very different, funny, eccentric, from all over the world. There's so many different things that happen. So it's a very fun, quirky story, but for me, nothing very special. The next book, 5 out of 5, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Another super popular book right now. I loved it. I loved it just as much as I loved The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I thought this book was so great, and I remember there's a talk show here in Canada called The Social, and one of the girls on it, Lainey, they had this book for their book club, and she said, I love this book so much, I wish it was a true story. I agree with her. I wish this band, these artists, their lives, I wish it was all a true story. I wish it happened in real life, especially the ending. I wish that was happening in real life. I loved it. The story is about a singer, Daisy Jones, and a band called The Six. They come together to make Daisy Jones and the Six, and it's literally just like about their life and how they clash coming together, all of their different parts in the band, all of the different relationships, and it's just so good. So good. 5 out of 5. The next book I read was TheOne by John Mars. I also gave this a 5 out of 5. This is, I guess I would say, science fiction. So TheOne is about, there are a few different characters we follow, I think about 5 or 6, and it's set in the future when there is a dating app, and basically this dating app matches your DNA with your soulmate's DNA. So this person is your one person, your perfect match. And so we have like 5 or 6 characters, like I said, finding their perfect matches. And of course they're all like going wrong, and there's a problem with all of them. Something's not right. And I just loved the story. I love stories when there are like lots of different characters and different things going on. I loved how it was set up, the pace. I just thought it was so great. I'm glad this doesn't exist in real life, because I think it would be an awful app. Because I don't think there's a one. Anyway, And sorry, for Daisy Jones and the Six and the one, I listened to the audiobooks, which were very spectacular. Like Daisy Jones and the Six, such a good audiobook, so good. The next book was also an audiobook. I listened to a lot of audiobooks like straight in a row. The next one was Verity by Colleen Hoover. I gave this a 5 out of 5. July was a pretty good reading month for me. Verity is, I would kind of say it's like a horror novel by Colleen Hoover. It's about an author who has been hired to complete this series of a super famous author. She has a horror series, and she was in an accident, so she's kind of just like a vegetable. So this woman, she goes to live in this super famous author's house with her husband and their son, and the super famous author's nurses, and she uncovers this biography that this woman had written, and it's just kind of messed up, and I really liked it. I really liked it. 5 out of 5. The next book was the book for my book club. It's called The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. I also listened to this audiobook. This book I gave a 4 to 5. I love the premise. So it's about these two people who hate each other. They end up on it's her twin sister and his brother. They get married, but they can't go on their honeymoon. So these two characters who hate each other go on the honeymoon in Hawaii together, which makes the story so much better, like how it's set in Hawaii. And of course, they hate each other, they love each other, stuff goes down, do they get back together, whatever. It's just a really good rom-com. I really hope they make a movie out of it. That would be great. After that I actually read Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I gave this a 4 to 5 stars. Gillian Flynn does not disappoint. She's so effed up in like the stories she creates. Sharp Objects, I mean, you've probably already heard about it. A lot of people have read it, and they made the series about it with Amy Adams. This journalist goes back to her hometown because there are these murders. She stays with her mother, who she has a very strained and messed up relationship with her mother, and her mother's husband and their daughter that they have together, her little sister. So the sister, I think, is like 13, and the main the main journalist is like 30, and she's just trying to uncover this murder, and yeah, some weird shit happens. After that, I again listened to another audiobook of War Cross by Marie Lu. I wanted to read this book because I'd watched some of those videos of like, if you liked this, you should read this. And this suggestion was for if you liked, I can't remember the name, because I didn't read the book, I saw that movie. Oh no, what was that movie? Oh, I can't remember. But like all the video games in the 80s, and so that one. So I read War Cross. War Cross is about, this virtual reality game has kind of just like taken over the world. Like everyone plays it, everyone's involved in it. There's big tournaments like globally. It's like kind of like an Olympic thing, and I gave it a 3 to 5. I mean, just YA, like it has to be a really good YA for me to give it a 4 or 5. Like really good. So overall, this was good. It was obvious, and like how the story was progressing, where the story was going was very obvious. You have the young main character who has no one and is poor, but then she gets the chance to be in the games, and she's also a bounty hunter, so she's also a spy within the game, within this tournament. There's a love interest, she falls in love, and then everything goes to crap and no one believes her, but then she figures it all out in the end. Like it's just very standard YA motion. So I mean, I would not recommend it. The next book I actually read was Between the Lines by Jodi Picoult, and her daughter wrote this together, Samantha Van something. So between the lines, I gave a 4 out of 5, and honestly, I would have given this a 5 out of 5 if it wasn't for the ending. That just ruined it for me, because it was just so, I feel sloppy and rushed, and just, we need to think of an ending, so this is the ending, blah. This book is about, so basically, it's kind of like Toy Story in the sense, you know how in Toy Story, once there's no one around, the toys come to life? Well, their thought was, well, what if when you close the book, the characters still have lives? So it's more like when you open the book, the characters are acting in a play, the book closes, and they, you know, go on with their real lives, until this one character inside the story is like, I want more than this. I don't want to just be in this book my entire life. And then there's, you know, a human who like recognizes him, and they start this relationship, and she's trying to help him get out of the story. So the whole book is them trying to brainstorm, how do we get him out? How do we get him out? And I thought it was just so cute. I loved the relationship. And this is a really, really great example of a good YA. This is a YA book through and through, and I loved it because it was done so, so well. Probably because it was Jodie Picoult, but Van Leer, Samantha Van Leer, that's her name. Next, I listened to an audiobook. Oh my gosh, I listened to so many audiobooks this month, like way more than I actually read. I listened to Normal People by Sally Rooney. I gave this a 4 out of 5. This is set in Ireland. It's told from 2 different perspectives, male and female characters. It starts with them in high school and how their relationship begins, and it goes through, it follows them through to college, university, basically until they graduate. And it's literally just a story about their lives, about their relationship, how to go after what you want, how to figure out what you want. Mental health is a big role in this book, which I really liked. And I just thought it was a nice story, but I did not like the ending. The ending was so disappointing. I mean, I understand why the author ended it that way, and I think in reality it is a good ending, but I just would like some more closure. After that, I again listened to the audiobook of 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott. This book was made into a movie that was released this year, and that was the reason I wanted to read this book, is because I'd seen the movie previews and I really wanted to see the movie. I haven't seen it yet, and I only gave it a 2 out of 5. I can see why young people like this book. It's very reminiscent of like The Fault in Our Stars, which I didn't like either. I liked the movie, but not the book. So this is just about 2 young teenagers who have cystic fibrosis. When you have cystic fibrosis, you can't be within more than 6 feet of each other, because like there's a chance that they could get each other sick. So they meet in the hospital and a romance blooms. I like how they have like all their friends in there too, like there's a good friend dynamic. And it's just a love story about 2 kids who can't be together, which is romantic and poetic. But again, it was just a regular YA, and you obviously know how I feel about YA at this point. And last, but definitely not least, was The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. I gave this a 4 out of 5. I'd actually first heard about this book like last fall, I think in October, from Books and Lala's channel, Kayla. She raved about this book. She thought it was so good, and I looked it up on Goodreads and I said, no, I'm not interested. But then when I decided to do the Goodreads Summer Challenge, this book fit into one of the challenges. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And I'm so glad I did. I ended up loving it. I thought the story was so beautiful. You felt right there with the character. I felt like I knew the character very, very well. The book is mostly set in Taiwan. I felt like I was in Taiwan with the character. I just felt like I knew all of the characters. I was totally sucked into that world, which I think if you can do that as an author, you're very, very talented. So this book is about, we have a 16-year-old girl, her mother, I don't think is spoiling it by saying like her mother commits suicide, because this happens like right in the first chapter. So it's about how she's grieving her mother's death. And then this book is magical realism, because her mother does come back in the shape of a bird, and she's finding out, because the mother's past is very secretive. She's never met her Taiwanese grandparents before. So after her mother dies, her father brings her to Taiwan to meet these Taiwanese grandparents, and she ends up staying with them for a little while. And through this bird and these magic incense sticks, she like figures out the history and why her mom cut her parents off, and you know, more about her mom's depression and their family dynamic, like between the 6-year-old, the mom, and the father, and then there's like her like love interest in there as well. And I just thought it was so well done. It's a little long, it's over 400 pages, but it flew by. Like, I went through that book because I just thought it was great. And that's it. That was my July reading wrap up. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.